Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Justin Lin here at Rehab and Revive Physical Therapy, where we rehab the mind to revive the body. Baseball season's underway, and I'm totally excited to watch our Los Angeles Dodgers try to do it again, get a repeat from 2020. So let's go blue. Anyways, depending on how well our players took care of themselves, hopefully they can avoid hamstring strains and hamstring tears. Interesting enough, it really is all about that preparation. And usually those things happen early in the season, I've noticed. It's a pattern. It happens earlier or mid-season more than later in the season. So it's interesting. We'll talk about that in a little bit and what we can do to prevent it. So let's get down to the nuts and bolts of the hamstring. So why does the hamstring even exist in our body? Why? I think the most important thing to know is that's actually the second longest muscle that connects over 3 joints of our body. What we need to understand is that it connects the pelvis, the hip, and the knee together. And the key to the hamstring, really the main job, is to slow down or eccentrically control a swinging motion of a quick moving leg. So let's explore the causes. Stay tuned. All right, let's get into the causes of hamstring tears and strains. We're going to use our friend Albert. Now, I wish he had longer legs because I could show you better, but I think you get the point. You got a little bit of the back, the pelvis, and the front, the hip joint. So I think the most important thing right off the bat, I'm going to say, is too much quads. I think we're a quad-dominated Western society where we're just blasting our quads. We want those big quads. There's a guy named Quadzilla. Quadzilla, it's ridiculous. And what happens here is when you have too much quads, it's right in the front, right here, right here. And what happens is it pulls the hip forward. Now your hamstrings basically get yanked out of its access point or their strength or power position. And what happens is then you put your hamstring on length, which then when it's stretched out like that, all you need is a little bit further when the kicking motion of the run to really create that tear.
With it. You'll take a look here. It's the right leg. He plants it, and you can see it just gives.
So this goes to our second point because it's all about that hip instability. If that quad is active all the time, like 100% of the time in your run, then the hips are going to be loose. I always like to use the analogy of like the axle of a car. So if your wheel is 1 inch or 1 foot forward, you can imagine how difficult it is to drive. Then you have to fight yourself. If you've got too much quads, basically what happens is that, that this hip, you're going to have to fight yourself to let this leg swing forward. Your hamstrings can't help and assist. When your hip is that unstable and your hip joint is forward, it creates another problem, the ankle. You have ankle stiffness, ankle mobility issues. You need the ankle to have a certain amount of what we call dorsiflexion, and that's going to be the key to having proper push-off and power, especially in that stride, to continue that perfect pendulum. And then the last thing is creating that timing. So if your hip is off, you can imagine that timing and the core muscles that help drive that pattern, that efficient swinging pattern in your run will be much more difficult. So stay tuned. We've got some great exercises to address these causes. So let's start our 5 exercises. What you're going to need at home is a yoga belt or a long towel, maybe a beach towel or a regular belt. And you could either have furniture sliders, you could use your towel, or you could put socks on a wood floor where you can slide a little easier, or carpet works as well. So that's for a different exercise. Let's go ahead and start with something called the hip holds. And that's going to be the key to stabilizing that hip. That way you suck that joint back and avoid that quad. So how you set this up, you could either have one of the legs bent or you could have the legs straight. But the most important thing, what we want to do is we're going to tighten our butt. So we're going to zoom in maybe a little bit and tighten that butt, squeeze it. Man. And then you're going to push down. Make sure, right now I'm very quad dominant. You can see that. It should be soft, like tofu. So squeeze, push down. And the angle you're going is you're trying to drive this down. So I'm preventing this with my arms. So all I do is just kind of lock my elbows here, and I just kind of shake and I work through this. You could also do this exercise in sitting, especially for those of you who are working or students. You can just do the same motion where you drive the hip down and work on that stability. You want to hold it till the shakiness stops, or 90 seconds. You don't need to be up here. You want to be driving this down here. And you want to make sure now it's a little bit softer. So you want to hold that and make sure it stops shaking, and you can see my legs jerking a little bit, and that's a neuromuscular response. So you want to make sure you get that. You can hold it, hold it, hold it, and you want to check that, and it's a lot softer. So that's going to be one of the exercises that you're going to do. All right, so let's move to the next exercise, and that's called reaching for the stars. Shooting for the stars. Something my mentor coined, but really it's just a single leg bridge. So we'll set that up right away. You can put one leg straight, basically the other leg bent. Your goal is to drive through this table while keeping this knee straight. I don't want it turning this way. I don't want it turning this way, but you're gonna tighten your butt just like you did for the hip holds, and you're gonna drive up. Now, a lot of people will cheat and they'll drive away first. You don't wanna do that. You wanna pretend like you've got this glass of water being held right here, and you're elevating it up slowly. So it's gonna be, you're driving that up, and then you're coming back down. You can, some people like this, you know, angle where they drive the heel down. So tighten your butt, and you're gonna drive it up, and you can drive it down. That single leg is really important. Once again, you can see that I can kind of tap my quads a little bit, and they're not being engaged, and this is a little bit more firm here. So work those hammies and glutes. And sometimes if you're shaking at the top, you just hold it there. Really important. Really important. Especially for us baseball players. So we'll progress to the heel slide. So that's pretty much a development. It's basically we're doing that driving. We're getting that motor memory back over and over and over again. So this is going to be important. So this is where these guys come in. We have these skills sliders. Like I said, you can use socks or you could use furniture sliders. What you can do is you're going to dig your heel down. You're going to lie on your back. Once again, you're going to initiate this with the little butt squeeze here. Tighten and pull. So, and then you're going to tighten. Guess what? Soft quads, tight hamstrings and glutes. There we go. So drive through. Drive through. And you're going to do a number of these, maybe 2 or 3 minutes worth. Make sure you're getting that. You're keeping this down, driving through. Push down, drive through. Push down, pull through. And so this is that action. And when you get really good, you can almost do an alternating one. Get that back into your system. Give that a shot. Or you can try different angles. Great exercise for you runners in general. I could do this for 30 minutes, I think. So let's get into actually some of that ankle. We talked about how when the ankle's locked up, we have some big problems. So let's go ahead. You can set that up. Basically, you're going to be right up here on a stable surface. And what we're doing is we're going to talk about that Achilles right here. It's a you're basically going to take that, you're going to pinch it, you're going to pull it back. So we're going to hold that. Sometimes I like both fingers here. And we're going to pull that through. And I'm basically finding the right angle. So right here, it's tight. You want to be able to pull that basically like a rubber band or something like that. It should ideally go towards my other knee in that direction without sucking me back in. Now you might feel some burning at times, and you should be able to get pretty far. The goal is to keep this to slide back. Remember, if everything shifted forward, the goal is to bring that back. Good. So I like kind of checking out different areas of the Achilles, and we're just really going to drive that through. Drive that through. Good. Try different angles. That should be fine. And you do this right before you get ready for your jogs and runs before your practice or your games. So we're going to change positions and we're going to move to a standing so you can learn about the metatarsal break. So what you want to do is you want to be in a standing position. You're going to drive one of your heels down through a couple points in your foot. Basically, you want to throw that heel down. You want to put significant pressure where it's even mildly painful. The only time it's dangerous is if you have a stress fracture in your foot. But up until that point, you can actually significantly load your feet. So you're going to start moving your ankles, and especially it's the bottom angle. You're going to move your ankles to go up and down. Once it gets looser, you can slide down to different positions. And what you're going to do next is, as soon as you're kind of done with this first part, you kind of move down. Then you could try the other toes and start turning your ankle in different segments while it goes on, and you're trying to build that flexibility and move your feet around. So your goal is to create a little better, kind of like a wave. You're trying to create that mobility and create that wave and create that splaying throughout your feet. So hopefully these 5 exercises really gave you a chance to start your prehab, your rehab, or wherever you are in the state of things with hamstring tears or chronic sprains. It's really great for you to stabilize that hip. I think that's the key thing to know, that it's all about getting the hip stronger, drawing that bone back, just like I explained in previous segment. If you like what we're doing, we'd love for you to subscribe below so you can stay up to date with all the newest information. And if you've tried these exercises and you've had these serious issues, give it a shot, leave a comment, leave us some feedback. We're always looking to improve. And of course, if it worked, leave a like. I'm Dr. Lin. Remember, we heal smarter, not harder.